The Vatican was silent that morning, but inside its stone walls, something had shaken Pope Leo XIV to his very core. Hours before the bells rang across Rome for morning mass, the Holy Father had already been up, eyes fixed on a document so sacred, so unexplainable, that even seasoned guards at the Apostolic Palace noticed his trembling hands. It wasn't war, nor scandal, nor doctrine. It was something else. Something almost supernatural. He read it again and again, his heart racing. A message, a vision, a revelation that came not from man, but from a realm beyond comprehension. A sealed folder, handwritten, not typed. The ink, fresh. The date, impossible. The document mysteriously slipped into the Pope's personal study overnight, detailed an event. Not a warning, but a witnessing. A divine manifestation inside the Sistine Chapel during the conclave. And what it described defied logic. At precisely 3:33 a.m. on the night before his election, as the cardinals slept and the city lay still, a light, blinding, golden and silent, had appeared above the altar. No cameras caught it, no alarm sounded, but Leo saw it. Alone, he told no one, except one man, Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle, not his secretary, not the Camerlengo, not even his confessor. He called Tagle privately, breaking every Vatican protocol, and simply said, "I need you to sit down. I saw something, and I don't know what it means, but I believe it was not from this world." Cardinal Tagle, stunned, flew to Rome under the guise of a standard clerical meeting, but those close to him noticed his countenance change after the meeting. His usual lightness had given way to reverence and fear. The church must be prepared. He whispered in private to one of his aides, "For what he allows us to see is only a glimpse." And now, weeks later, Pope Leo XIV, once considered a quiet reformer, is acting with sudden, bold authority. He reaffirmed celibacy with fire in his voice. He condemned global violence, not with diplomacy, but with spiritual urgency. And quietly, almost symbolically, he handed Cardinal Tagle the titular diocese of Albano, his former post. No one outside the inner circle knows why, but in Catholic tradition, such a gesture is never random. What did the Pope witness? Why Tagle? And why now? Some say it's a prophecy long buried, one passed down through a hidden order within the Vatican. Others believe it's a message tied to Fatima's third secret, unfulfilled, misunderstood, and misinterpreted for decades. There are even whispers among clergy of a vision involving the Blessed Mother, who appeared weeping, holding the torn, the keys of St. Peter. Still, Pope Leo XIV remains silent in public, but his actions speak louder than any sermon. During a closed-door session with global bishops, he was visibly shaken when one prelate innocently mentioned heavenly signs. His hand clutched the edge of the table, and he abruptly ended the meeting. Later that day, he was seen alone in the chapel for over 2 hours, kneeling, not praying aloud, but listening, as if waiting for a voice. Insiders are talking. Some say the Pope is preparing a final document to be released only after his death, written confession of what he saw and what was said. A document that may change church history forever. And Cardinal Tagle? He has cancelled all public speaking for the next 3 months. No explanation, no schedule, only a cryptic Vatican memo stating, "His Eminence will be in a period of private reflection." But here's what few know. A letter, signed by Leo and addressed only to the great ones, was quietly dispatched to an undisclosed monastery in Eastern Europe. The contents remain unknown, but the envelope bore a seal long thought defunct, the Sigillum Christi, the Seal of Christ, once used only by popes who received heavenly instructions directly. The last to use it? Pope Celestine V, over 700 years ago. Whatever Pope Leo XIV witnessed, it was not a passing vision. It changed him. The Church feels it. Bishops feel it. Even the people, those sitting in pews week after week, say the air feels different. It's like something is moving in the church. One elderly nun in Assisi said, like God is stirring something ancient. This isn't just reform, this is revelation. And the one man, he told, holds more now than just a title. He holds the burden of the unseen. The bride of Christ is stirring, not with celebration, but with a shiver. The marble halls of the Vatican echo with centuries of prayer, triumph, betrayal, and resurrection. But now, something ancient has returned. Not a ghost, not a heresy, something older, a divine reckoning that the saints warned of, that mystics saw in midnight ecstasies, and that every pope since Peter has secretly feared. And Pope Leo XIV, humble, quiet, a man few thought would bear the crown, witnessed it. No one expected him to be chosen. Not even he did. His name wasn't on most lists. He entered the conclave as an observer of the church's fracture, ideological schisms, lukewarm faith, moral confusion. But when the smoke turned white, and his name was spoken, something within him changed. That night, he did not sleep. He walked alone in the Sistine Chapel under Michelangelo's Last Judgment. He looked up and prayed. Then, it came. A soundless light, not warm, not cold, piercing. A presence filled the chapel, not terrifying, but terribly holy. Time stood still. Leo XIV fell to his knees, weeping, not out of fear, but out of knowledge. Something had been revealed to him, something not meant for mortal eyes. He would tell no one, except Luis Tagle, because what he saw wasn't just a vision of heaven. It was a glimpse of what's coming. A great shaking of the Catholic Church, a tearing down of false altars, a purging of wolves in cassocks, a purification of the bride of Christ before the final hour. In hushed tones, the Pope described to Tagle a coming war, not of missiles, but of spirits. The Holy Spirit versus the spirit of the age. He spoke of two churches growing within one structure, one faithful to Christ crucified, the other enslaved to the world's applause. He showed Tagle a sealed scroll delivered that morning. It bore a symbol known only to a secret papal fraternity, a circle of 7 stars around the cross, once held only by Pius X and John Paul II. Its message, a single Latin phrase, Ecclesia dividetur, sed sponsa purificabitur, the church will be divided, but the bride shall be purified. Since that moment, every word from Pope Leo XIV has held the weight of eternity. He has stopped smiling in public. His homilies are sharper, fire-forged. He calls bishops to repent. He warns priests of judgment. He praises silence and fasts until his cheeks grow hollow. He knows what's coming, and so does Tagle. But not all inside the Vatican are pleased. There are factions, always have been. But now, they're emboldened. Whispers swirl of a new way. A reimagined church stripped of mystery and miracles, made palatable for a broken world. Some cardinals speak of modernization, of removing symbols like the crucifix in favor of inclusive imagery. One even suggested rewriting the Lord's Prayer to remove the word Father. But Leo XIV watches and waits. He knows they are rising. He knows who they are, and he knows who sent them. Because this is not merely a battle of policy. It is a cosmic war. Michael and his angels against the fallen ones. He has received dreams. Visions so intense, he wakes drenched in sweat. In one, he stood atop St. Peter's Basilica, watching black smoke rise from its dome. In another, the statue of Christ above the altar turned and wept blood, whispering, "I no longer recognize my house." In the Apostolic Palace, security has tightened. A section once used for archives is now sealed. Only the Pope and Tagle hold keys. There are rumors that hidden within is a relic so sacred, so feared, that even mentioning its name outside consecrated lips is considered blasphemy. Some believe it's the veil of Veronica. Others whisper of a sealed letter from the Virgin, meant only for the Pope who would reign during the final division of the Church. Tagle, once joyful and open, now walks the halls like a sentinel. At night, he prays in the chapel for hours. His aides say he sleeps little. One was overheard saying, "He looks like a man who has seen the end." And perhaps he has, because the Pope, in his trembling hand, gave him not just a vision, but a task, one he will not speak of, one that may cost him everything. Meanwhile, across the world, faithful Catholics are experiencing a strange pull, an urgency to return to confession, to attend daily Mass, to kneel before the Blessed Sacrament, and weep. Monasteries report unusual dreams among novices. Children speak of angels. Old statues bleed. The veil between heaven and earth grows thin. And as this spiritual tide rises, Pope Leo XIV prepares, not for retirement, not for reform, but for battle. The purification of the Church is no longer coming. It has begun. The bride of Christ no longer walks in silence. She weeps. Her tears flow unseen down the steps of the Lateran and into the bones of martyrs buried beneath the catacombs. The earth itself shudders beneath her. She knows what many in the Church still refuse to say aloud. The hour of purification is not coming. It is already here. And at the center of it all stands Pope Leo XIV, no longer just a shepherd, but a witness. Not of events past, but of a revelation few can carry. His eyes, once mild, now burn with a fire not his own. There is something celestial in his silence. He is a man who has heard what heaven will not yet speak aloud. But heaven is no longer silent. For months now, events have escalated in whispers. But recently, heaven has moved loudly in Poland, a Eucharistic miracle. The host bled. The scientists, after testing the tissue, fell silent. It was cardiac muscle under extreme agony, identical to previous Eucharistic miracles. No explanation. In Brazil, a cloistered nun screamed during adoration, not in fear, but in ecstatic vision. Her voice echoed through the convent. "He comes not in peace, but with a sword to cleanse his bride." Minutes later, she collapsed, weeping uncontrollably, repeating one phrase, "Tell the Pope. He must speak soon, or the lampstand will be removed." In Manila, where Tagle once presided as Archbishop, an image of the crucified Christ began to sweat. Parishioners swore they smelled myrrh. A bishop tried to silence the reports. He was found a week later, having resigned without explanation, after what insiders described as a private breakdown during a silent retreat. And now in Rome, the heart of the Church, unseen hands move. A file, marked Archivum Obscurum, was discovered in the Vatican's subterranean vaults. It had been hidden behind a false wall, sealed with wax, marked only with the Chi-Rho, the earliest symbol of Christ, and the Greek word phos, light. Inside, a prophecy, unsigned, untitled, but unmistakable. When the bishop in white sees what only angels may see, the stones of Peter shall groan. One shall be raised from the east, clothed not in scarlet, but in flame. The keys will tremble, and the dragon, once chained, shall flicker its tongue within the walls. The document was immediately brought to Pope Leo XIV. He read it in silence. Then he wept. He did not say why. But the next day, he summoned Cardinal Tagle again. This time, not in secret. He gave him a ring. Not the ring of the fisherman, not a cardinal's seal. This was different. It bore no gemstone, just a carving, a sword piercing a heart encircled by thorns, an ancient symbol seen only once before, in a forbidden book known to only 3 living men, a text that speaks of the Church's final agony. Tagle received it with no words, but witnesses say he kissed the Pope's hands and replied, "Then the hour is nearer than I feared." From that moment forward, the Church has changed. Behind the facade of calm, a battle rages. Inside the Vatican, factions have begun to splinter. On one side, the faithful remnant, led quietly by Leo XIV, Tagle, and a handful of bishops who still kneel before the Blessed Sacrament, who fast in secret, who cling to the rosary like a weapon. They speak little, but act decisively. They know what this is. On the other, the counter-church, dressed in robes of tolerance, holding the banner of inclusion, but beneath it, division, pride, rebellion. They call for the blessing of sin. They mock sacramentals. They rewrite liturgies to please the world. Some even dare suggest the papacy itself should be reimagined. They call it progress. Heaven calls it war. In the Apostolic Palace, security has been tripled. Night guards report hearing whispers in empty halls. Candles flicker without wind. Sacred icons fall without being touched. One Swiss guard, deeply devout, resigned last week. He left a note. "I love the Holy Father, but I will not stay. Something ancient walks these halls. I have heard its breath behind me at night. I know, the voice of evil. It hides now, but not for long." And what of the Pope? He has written a letter, not to the faithful, not to the world, but to heaven. It is said to be sealed within the tabernacle of his private chapel, to be opened only if he dies suddenly. The letter is addressed simply, ad sponsam dolentem. To the Weeping Bride. It is believed to contain his final words to the Church, a confession, a testimony, perhaps even the name of the one who is to carry the torch after him. And many now believe that name is Tagle. But the Pope, as always, is silent. Until now. Yesterday, during his public Angelus, something unprecedented occurred. As he stepped onto the balcony, thousands below saw a white dove descend and land on the edge beside him. It did not move. It did not fly. It simply stood. The Pope paused mid-sentence. He turned to the dove and whispered something. The microphone did not catch it, but a child near the front of the crowd, no older than 7, shouted. He said, "It has begun." No one believed him until the dove looked directly at the crowd, then took off straight upward, vanishing into the clouds. No circling, no fluttering, just ascension. And now, something is stirring in every corner of the Catholic world. Monks in the Alps have begun praying the exorcism prayers of Leo XIII. Daily, without explanation. The Poor Clares in Avila report visitations of blinding light. The holy face of Manopello has changed expression. Documented, photographed, impossible to explain, and the Vatican's most trusted exorcist has disappeared. His name, Father Benedetto Orlandi. His last recorded words before vanishing were written in the margin of his diary. "Tell Leo, the breach is open. The battle has passed the veil." No one has seen him since. And then, one final twist no one expected. This morning, Pope Leo XIV was found in his private study at 3:33 a.m., the same hour as the vision, kneeling, pale, eyes open, frozen in silence. A doctor was called. He was alive, but unresponsive. Breathing, heartbeat normal, but not speaking. And in his hand, clenched tight, was a small scrap of paper. Security removed it. No one could read it. But Cardinal Tagle, called immediately, entered the room alone. He emerged 1 hour later, eyes red, face pale, clutching a small leather-bound book none had ever seen before. He said only one sentence. "The keys have been struck." Now, every bell in the Vatican tolls every night at midnight. No one knows why. But pilgrims say when they stand beneath St. Peter's at that hour, they feel a vibration beneath their feet, as if the bones of the first pope are stirring. Because the bride of Christ is not just preparing, she is awakening. And the next move belongs not to man, but to God.